So another great classroom activity for using AAC and working on written expression is predictable chart writing. So this is a multi-step group activity that's typically done across multiple days that targets language and early literacy skills. There's 5 total steps to it, so it can be something that you do over the course of a whole week. It's also very good for repetition. You could do this activity every single week. It's just that the chart that you're writing would change, the topic might change, but for planning purposes, to have something repetitive that you know that will change a little bit, but is generally the same plan, can help with some of that organization. And it doesn't take too terribly long. Some of the activities, like writing the chart, is a pretty brief activity. And there's also a Project Core module linked at the bottom for predictable chart writing, and then another link at the bottom with some more information about predictable chart writing if you want to take a deep dive into that. So the first step, the first day that you're going to work on it, so maybe this is your Monday, is to write a chart. So you can use the dry erase board, those big post-it papers, whatever you have in your classroom, and write the chart using sentence frames that students can complete so they become like a fill in the blank sentence, using choices or responses that they're able to generate on their own. The sentence frames are related to whatever your class topic is and uses core words. And the staff can support navigation by opening to a topic page or a category page, or you can even see in this example that Google Images is open to help with thinking about or providing different responses. Uno was on there and it's in the Google Images. It may not be programmed into the device, but you can work on how to either spell that, or maybe we do program that word into the device if that's their favorite game. It's one of those F's, that favorite. When you write the chart, it's important that everything aligns so that the students can see word boundaries, they can see the repetition. You notice all those I's are lined up really neatly, all those plays, and then what they fill in the blank with is unique to each student. You can see they opened the game page for this student to let them fill in the blank, or they could use the Google Images. Your students who are speaking to communicate can just say it, but it's a self-generated or supported with choices response. In the unique learning system, they do have activities like sentence scrambles that maybe you could use as one of these fill in the blank activities. They have high frequency words that you can use to tie this in with your curriculum. It's just important that the sentence uses core words and lines up on the chart so that the students can see the visual piece of that. So this one is I play blank. If you want to work on describing words, you could do an activity. If you're reading a book about a cat, you could say the cat is, and then for some of your students, you may need to open the adjectives or description page and have them make a choice from there, or they might be able to navigate there themselves. It just depends on your student. And that's all step one is. So maybe your Monday is just, we're going to write this chart and then we put it away for the day. Step two, so maybe your Tuesday, is you get the chart back out, you reread it, you talk about it, and you analyze it. So it's basically just working with the text. So you can encourage your students to read along as you reread the chart. They can speak if they're able to do that. Your students that maybe are not able to do that at this point in time could use a pointer to follow along with the words, but could participate in some way. You could put the chart in front of them and they could use their hand to touch the words. But each student is encouraged to read along in whatever way they're able to participate. And then you incorporate just typical literacy activities. So you can do anything like underlining each word just to learn where word boundaries are, clap or tap each word, underline or circle the core words that you put in the sentence. You can count the number of words, count the number of letters in a word. You can look for a specific word or letter in the chart. In the example that you see in this picture, it's pretty clear that they circled all the S's. So maybe if that's your letter of the day or the week, you can do that. If you used one of your high frequency words from ULS, you could circle that in the chart. You can ask your students why they made their choices. Why did you choose birds? Why did you choose clouds? Depending on how they're able to communicate with you about that. And you can also work on identifying capitalization or punctuation in the chart. So it's just working with typical early literacy skills like letter word identification, punctuation. And that might be all you do on Tuesday with the chart and put it away again. Step three is then you start to work with the sentence. So you would get either a piece of paper where you're able to do this, or the ideal thing would be to write it on one of those sentence strips that has the lines for writing. So each student's sentence gets written on a sentence strip. The teacher can write it, the para can write it. If a student's able to do it themselves, then they can do that. Again, it depends on each one of your students and what they need. And then the student reads the whole sentence with whatever support is needed. So maybe, again, that's an adult needing to read it to the student and helping with showing, touching each word as we're reading it. Maybe the student's able to read it themselves. And then the student would cut the strip into individual words. So again, this is practicing the concept of a word and where word boundaries are. So on that sentence strip, you might space them pretty far apart so that it's easy to identify where those word boundaries are, and students can cut them with whatever support they need. Maybe they need adaptive scissors, they need support with cutting, or maybe they're able to do it independently. Then you would mix up the words and ask the student to recreate the sentence. And as they attempt, you can read each attempt to them and say, does that sound right? Put I cereal away. Ooh, does that sound right? Let's think about that, and give them whatever support they need. If they say yes, let's think about it again. Listen carefully. Or maybe they don't give you any response, but you can model some of those different attempts. That doesn't sound right to me. I'm going to try to move them another way. Oh, I put away cereal. Oh, that sounds right to me. You can model those things if they're not able to tell you on their own. You can see in this example, they have a mat down where there's a visual support for where to put each word. Those rectangles are just written on the colored piece of paper. And so the student then they can glue them down, they can place them down, whatever you want to do. And that's all that step three is. So maybe that's all Wednesday is just working with those sentence strips. Step four starts incorporating some of that gross motor learning, and it's a fun game and isn't too terribly long to do. And you can do multiple rounds and you can practice with each student sentence, but you play a game called Be the Sentence. So you count how many words are in the sentence. So maybe you have a class of 10 students, but there's only 3 words. So you're going to have 3 students and then go different rounds and give everybody a chance to participate. There's 3 words in the sentence. You're going to give 3 students one of the words either on a piece of paper or an index card, just written down somewhere, and then have the students try to arrange themselves in the correct order. So they're actually standing up, moving around. Their peers can participate by telling them if they're in the right order or not, really getting that gross motor movement. And that's all that step 4 is. So Thursday might be, we're going to play this game, we're going to move around, we're going to help our friends get in the right order with their sentence. And then step 5 is for you to help the students make a book. So we reread our sentences again, and then they can illustrate however they're able, whatever resources you have in your classroom. So your students can draw. It's not important that it actually looks like what they say that it looks like. If it scribbles on a page, but that's what the student is able to draw, that's okay. You can help them use photographs, Google Images, helping put that into like a Google document. There's a website called Monarch Reader where you can make books and can import images into it. There's apps like Pictello if you have access to that. The importance of this step is that it teaches students a purpose for writing. We didn't just do this activity to do this activity. We made a product. We made a book. Our class wrote a book. And so you can compile everybody's illustrations, drawings, photographs, a book in Monarch Reader, however you want to do it, into a published product. And some teachers will print these out and put them into their classroom library as books that students can work with. Somebody had a great idea that it could be a great Christmas gift from students to parents of here's the book of my sentences and stories that I've written up until this point. Having students be published writers gives them a product and a reason for why they wrote and some investment in the activity. And that might be your Friday. And that's the whole thing. And then you can start it all over again on Monday with a different sentence, but still the same activities. And it also helps with structure for the classroom. The students know so every Thursday we're going to be playing Be the Sentence. That's just part of our routine, and they know what to expect. So now I want you to look at whatever the current curriculum unit is for either unique, if that's something that you're using, or early childhood and using a different curriculum, but whatever your activities are for that curriculum, and think about a sentence that you could use for predictable chart writing. Look at the high frequency words, think of the core words that show up in the activities that you're doing. Look at, again, unique. Is the sentence scramble sentence good? And we don't have to start from scratch. We can just use that one. What resources do you have? And think about, how did you come up with this sentence? Like, oh, I chose this because do was a high frequency word in our unit. So I chose the sentence, do you like blank? For the students to practice asking a question. Once you've practiced, come back and we will talk about how we can bring everything we've learned today all together.